Number one, I am a rock rib conservative, unabashedly so. Many of you listen to the program know that. And when I talk about conservatism, do for self is as conservative as it comes. I'm a capitalist. I believe in the free enterprise system. They call me get paid Wade. I want everybody to eat. Everybody's got to eat. Now here's the deal. I invite your participation going forward. I want you to continue to watch Cwu-Tv and listen to the Kim Wade Show at WYAB 103.9 FM, WYAB.com, Monday through Fridays from 4 to 6. Continue to listen in, add your input, and see if we can't be the example for all of America to point to and say, they're doing it right down in Jackson, Mississippi. Now there's a message in there for a believer. Welcome back to Wade 2025 on CW-TV on YouTube and CW-TV Network on Facebook and CW-TV on Rumble. Leave your comments, like, share, and subscribe to our channels. Check it out. Folks, glad to be back. We appreciate you coming back with us today. Last week we were participating with the Mississippians against vaccine conference Monday and Tuesday, so we had to prepare for that. We appreciate your indulgence, but we're back live today, and we invite your participation. Look, here's a couple things that we're talking about today. We will touch on the vaccine mandate conference shortly before we leave here today, but we're going to start out, House Bill 1020, that controversial bill we talked about on the previous live show, has generated so much controversy. And as you know, it did pass out of the Mississippi House, and it's over at the Senate now. The Senate has made some changes to the bill, which is going to result in the bill going back for a conference. And the conference between the House bill and the Senate bill, it'll be reconciled, and they'll come out with a hybrid of the two. And people are still unhappy with the fact that House Bill 1020 is even proposed. But the question, that arose from all this controversy, it exposed a lot of things, the weaknesses and what, you can't even call it a workable plan, nor can you call it a plan, period, being advanced on behalf of our community and on behalf of our city by those who purport to lead us or our leadership. And so this controversy and the weaknesses that was revealed about it, I think we need to address it here. Now, House Bill 1020 was put together by Senator Trey Lamar, as we pointed out on the last show. Senator Lamar, I believe his intentions were good, and there's a need for what he was proposing. In fact, the city of Jackson has been asking for assistance in these areas for the last 5 or 10 years that I know of. Now, here's the deal. The blowback that came against Senator Lamar in the bill itself was from people who had a vested interest, stakeholders, if you will, in the bill, in the city, in the county, but yet further examination showed that they didn't have a plan that they could offer themselves, though they knew that the bill was coming up for sunset that funded all the previous efforts to work in these areas regarding crime in Jackson, infrastructure, et cetera. And so it raised the question to me, do we really have a workable plan to advance the city of Jackson, by extension Hinds County, by extension the state, by extension the country? Because whatever we fail to do impacts everybody else. And we're one of the first ones to tell people, well, this is the capital city, you should want to help out here. Well, now I'm sitting here wondering, now wait a minute. I looked at the players involved, and this is going to be cold-hearted in the minds of some, and I understand that, but we cannot ignore it, and it has to be addressed. Last time we spoke, last time we were together, I pointed out the fact that the Black Caucus itself, the representatives from this area who are members of the Black Caucus, didn't have a plan ready to offer to the legislature for consideration, and yet they tore down the one that was offered. And then over this past week, it came to me that senior judge here in Hinds County, former senior judge, Tommy Green, who who was also a member of the legislature before she became a circuit court judge. And she became the chief circuit court judge in 2010, or actually the beginning of 2011. Now, her being in the middle of the judicial system here in Hinds County, the criminal justice system here in Hinds County, and having been a former member of the legislature and a former Black Caucus member, it, in my view, fell on her to marshal the forces to say, guys, we need to sit down and talk. That being the Legislative Black Caucus or the members of the Hinds County delegation. And by extension, it would help all the court systems throughout the state. But since Jackson is the one with the backlog, the largest backlog it seems, they should have been the tip of the spear leading the effort for reform. But Judge Green did not. And the reason why this came to my attention is because, you know, she's recently retired and her seat was taken over by Attorney Deborah Gibbs. Now, Senator Trey Lamar, when he put that bill together, this is what he has done. He called together individuals with skill sets that they could bring to bear on the problems that Jackson had been complaining about, such as the crime, the infrastructure, yada, 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 policing. He called on his boys from Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and wherever else to bring their expertise to address so they could formulate a bill which later resulted in House Bill 1020. Now, and here's the situation. You don't think that Tommy Green, Chief Judge Tommy Green, former member of the Black Caucus, had a similar responsibility and duty to marshal the forces that she had. First of all, she has knowledge of how the legislature works. She has knowledge of how to get a bill through, how to draft a bill, etc. And she has relationships being a former member of the Black Caucus. She didn't do any of those things. So at what point do we start holding ourselves responsible for getting some things done? Now, we heard all these legislators and all these Black officials complaining about the racism and the heart of those who drew up this bill, et cetera, et cetera. So where's your heart? You feel no responsibility. And what struck me about Judge Green's role in all this, I remember reading an article, I think it was either in the Jackson Advocate or Mississippi Free Press, one of them, upon her retirement or announcement of her retirement. And she talked about her accomplishments and how she had been a public servant, yada, yada, yada. And I thought about how many times she said, I and my. And I'm saying, at what point does our elected officials who set themselves aside and out in a separate group by calling themselves the Black Caucus as indicating that they have so much more concern than anybody else for Black people, and yet they won't do their job? In fact, they're probably mad because I'm making these statements over the air right now, but they're gonna have to live with it. You're not doing your job, you're not getting the job done. At what point do we say, this is unacceptable, this behavior is unacceptable? And then to use the capital of the Black community to point the bony finger of indignation at the white community and those white legislators for what they attempted to do, however, you know, clumsy it may have been, et cetera. But to outright accuse them of racism when they hadn't done anything, you know, what is the difference between this failure to do your job, this failure to take the leadership role, being in the heart of the problem and having nothing to offer on solving the problem, and then retire without ever offering anything? It's not acceptable to me. I expect everybody to be grown-ups, everybody to be adults. You said you were ready for prime time. When you ran for judgeship, you talked about your experience in the legislature and yada, yada, yada. All that's fine. And guys, we're expecting more. If that's too much to ask of you, then do the right thing and step down. That's one of the things I hold Attorney Dennis Sweet in high regards for, because he went down to the legislature for one term and he realized, look, this is not my ministry. And he backed out. It wasn't an ego thing with him. He thought he could make a difference down there. Turned out that wasn't where he could make the biggest difference. The same thing with Peggy Hobson Calhoun. When she stood for re-election, she never ran on a race car. She just say up or down. This is my record. I'm standing for re-election. But you got these folks who are outwardly promoting their blackness and then doing absolutely nothing to fulfill their promise when they're taking advantage of people who trust them implicitly. It's like telling your grandchild, we're going to McDonald's. Once Pawpaw, Meemaw say, we're going to McDonald's, it's a done deal. They believe and trust you implicitly. They have no defense against you being untruthful. Same way it is with the Black Caucus, same way it is with Judge Tommy Green, same way it is with Kim Wade. It's with all of us. If we're going to make these public proclamations about what we're about, we expect you to be about that life. We're not asking too much. We're just asking you to make some adjustments. Everybody's got to eat. And the way you're playing it right now, you're telling us the pie can't be cut any thinner. And I say boo-boo on that. In the words of the old black man, we got to make some adjustments. We'll be right back.
I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community.
Call in now at 601-397-6752. Call in now at 601-397-6752.
Welcome to Wade 2025 on CW-TV on YouTube, CW-TV Network on Facebook, CW-TV on Rumble. Leave your comments, like, share, and subscribe to our channels. All right, folks, we're back. Now, just to give you an overview of what we're talking about today, the question is, are the plans being offered up by the leadership, so-called, of Hinds County, City of Jackson, and by extension all of Mississippi, is it workable? Is it good for our community? The controversy surrounding House Bill 1020 shows there's cracks in the wall here. The curtain has been pulled back on leadership or lack of leadership in our community. I think it has to be addressed. The question is, do we need to field a new team, fire the coaches, rebuild from the ground up? Now, we wouldn't suffer or tolerate Jackson State coaches having this year after year win-loss record. Why should we be the Prairie View of politics? And we got all these L's up here, goose eggs everywhere, and we're supposed to just sit back and take it and be proud that we have black representatives. Hoss, I'm sorry, I demand more. I'm not asking more, I'm demanding more. So as the old black man once said, something's gonna have to be did about this here situation. You and I are gonna do something about it. Here's the deal. Now, I just pointed out about the situation with Judge Green. And, folks, you don't have to take it personal. If you do, I understand, and really, I don't care. And here's the reason why I don't care, because you don't care about us. What you're doing with your inactivity, and this applies to all, not just Judge Green, former Judge Green. It applies to all of us, even Radio Strongman, me, you. We have to do better. Our inaction, our failure to convert, our failure to make the big plays, our failure to move the ball forward, it's no different than the redlining the banks used to do to the black community back in the day, leaving us in poverty, our inability to accumulate wealth from generation to generation. This is doing the same thing. So we cannot tolerate this. This is compassion redlining by people who are using the trust we have in them and the organizations that they represent to ruin our lives and the lives of our community and the future of our kids. Again, unacceptable. So what we're going to do, we're going to break it up at the door. Just read today where FedEx has determined that they're going to suspend delivery service in zip code 39204 because of the crime. And again, House Bill 1020 attempts to deal with that. Judge Green, the Legislative Black Caucus, the city elected officials, county elected officials have been dragging their feet dealing with this problem like it ain't a big deal. Oh, they'll talk about it when they come to the community meetings. Yeah, we need to have more projects. Yeah, all that's fine and good. But there's a way you get that done. And Representative, or I should say Senator Trey Lamar demonstrated that. So why can't our representatives be as proactive as the white man was? Why can't we marshal our forces? We've got lawyers, we've got CPAs, we've got prosecutors, we got all of it. We got the same thing that they have. What we don't have is that desire to make a difference. We're not going to do another 60 years the way we've been doing it, where we're just supposed to clap like trained seals when Benny Thompson steps up to the podium, or one of our state representatives or senator does it, or the mayor. We're going to demand more. And matter of fact, we're going to start right now. This is not rocket science on how to do it. One of the things that we have to do is put something on paper. We can't just keep going up there and say, well, they know what we want. Charles Evers told me a long time ago, when he was alive and we were all part of the Hinds County Republican Party, he said, son, tell these folks what you want. Don't assume they know. Make it clear. Put it on paper. Get it in writing. But get something for yourself and get something for your folks. These people ain't getting nothing for us. Bruh, they can say what they want about what I'm saying, but they can't argue with the fact that they ain't got no paperwork. They ain't got nothing written down. And so when I come up here and say these things, I'm saying it to encourage you to get some courage about yourself. We don't owe our future to them while they cash in, get paid, their kids going to the best schools, and then they'll sit back and tell you, well, my child doing fine. Well, we can appreciate that. But everybody's got to eat. I want my child to do good too. And so we're sitting up here watching the crime, our schools collapse, the infrastructure collapse, our water system collapse. The pattern is clear, it's unbroken, it's like a color in a plaid. It's always there. Failure, failure, failure. And they can't tell us when we're going to have a winning season. And I'm saying, no. The problem is you. Let's be honest. You don't know what you're doing. Or you do know what you're doing and you don't care. Either way, unacceptable. So I'm inviting you to straighten your back up, square your shoulders, quit looking down at your shoes, and tell these people forthrightly, flat-footed, without stuttering, y'all got to change. If you can't change how you're doing things, you got to change your address. You got to go. Don't mean maybe, don't mean perhaps, you got to go. Because we honored your vote. We honored you with our vote for the dreams you had, you said that was going to make our lives better. And now and again, FedEx is moving out of 39204. That means you can't get your packages delivered there. Why is that? Why is that? You're trying to tell me that we can't have what they have in Flowood. I was driving down 25 last night, just looking at all the restaurants. Saturday night, looking at all the restaurants packed out. We could have the same thing in Jackson, but we got to make a decision. Are we more concerned about whether or not racism exists, about whether or not we can prove that racism exists, whether or not we can browbeat some guilt-ridden white boy or white girl to cut us a check for cash so that they won't feel guilty about them being a white racist as they've been accused of? No, we can do better. I suggest that let us form a coalition of people who want Jackson to do better, who know Jackson can do better, but we have to excise this cancerous growth that's on the black community from these set-aside Negroes, these black for a living Negroes, and these free-to-land Negroes. All they're doing is trafficking in our trust and delivering absolutely nothing. Again, unacceptable. And so how do you do that, Kim? Let's start working with those folks. I work with an investment group here in Jackson. And there's 3 men in there that's been there since the beginning. There was others, but these were some of the originals. That would be Walter Walford, Scott Britton, Paul Flood, Bob LaCroix. There's 4 actually. And these men, who happen to be white, probably have created more thousandaires and millionaires in Jackson by freely giving of their knowledge on how to invest in real estate. Real estate undergirds our government. It funds our government. It is the largest tax source. It's the biggest cash register for the city of Jackson, the county of Hinds, the state of Mississippi. And what they're showing is how to get that money out of it. And this is what I was saying earlier in my opening statement, and that is everybody's got to eat. And they do it. We go to those meetings, we're there 3 or 4 hours. Race never comes up. You know what comes up? Green. More money, more money, more money. And so what I'm saying with Wade 2025, let's put one black and one white together for business, not for complaining about, oh, we got to have a race reconciliation breakfast. Oh, well, you know, I gotta have lunch with a white guy this month. I got to have a lunch with a black guy. We're not doing that crap. We're capitalists. Free enterprise. Free enterprise and capitalism is what delivers all the goods and services that you're enjoying right now. Is it the most equitable system? It's the best one we come up yet. Compassion ain't doing it. The compassion industry, which you try to substitute for free enterprise and capitalism, results in poverty redlining. We have more poverty in areas throughout the city of Jackson than we had when the banks were redlining certain neighborhoods. Explain that. Make it make sense. We did everything that you said we need to do to lift the poor. And all we're doing is just co-signing your fantasies, co-signing your dreams and your foolishness about how to lift people out of poverty. And the only person getting lifted up is you. Bruh, I ain't trying to break your plate, but everybody's got to eat. You're telling us that the pie can't get cut any thinner? I can't buy that, Hoss. Then when you ain't even got a knife, you say, ha, 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 let me holler at you a minute about that. No, bruh. There's going to be some adjustment. There's got to be some changes. So won't you join us, a coalition of Mississippians who are going to work against these folks who are working against the community with their cancerous ideals. It can be done. It will be done. It shall be done. We're going to take a break. More of Wade 20.
I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community.
Call in now at 601-397-6752. Call in now at 601-397-6752.
Welcome to Wade 2025 on Cwu-Tv, Cwu-TV on YouTube, Cwu-TV Network on Facebook, Cwu-TV on Rumble. Like, leave your comments, share, and subscribe to all our channels. All right, folks, this is the last segment. This is the question that needs to be addressed. Are charges of racism being used to cover up the fact that we don't know what the hell we're doing? You know, in my first segment, I talked about the Black Caucus and Judge Green, et cetera. You know what I call that? Or their lack of action? I call it criminal coon-dogging. Coon-dogging? Think about it. Everybody wants to call a brother like me, a rock-rib conservative, unabashed Trump supporter, ride or die Trump, want to call me a coon. Well, think about this here. Those of you who are hunters out there, what about that coon dog? You got him caged in the back of your truck all day long. He sees the coon walking and just doing whatever he wants to do in his own freedom. What does the coon dog want to do? They want to get out of that cage, chase that coon, track and tree, and then tell their master, come shoot him out the tree. And what's the coon's only problem in the eyes of these coon dogs? He's free. He's able to go about his business and ain't asking nobody for nothing. That's what the Legislative Black Caucus is doing with their policies or lack of policies, the inattentiveness to the concerns of the community, the breakdown of our governmental structure, the infrastructure, the water, the crime, the schools and everything, that's coon-dogging. Because what they will tell you that racism is the reason for all this, when in fact, they're in charge of everything. All they have to do is do their job. Back when we were Negroes, we handled business like that with regularity, without fanfare. In fact, you didn't even know it. You didn't notice it. When you were growing up, did you think about water? Did you think about the streets? Did you think about the schools failing? When we were growing up, we thought about the racism that we perceived or thought was undergirding the school system. But yet people were coming out learning how to read and write. Now we supposedly have are dealing with the racism, but our kids can't read and write. No, we're getting it twisted. That's because we're coon-dogging. We're allowing ourselves to be twisted like in a Tai Chi, Jackie Chan moves on us or whatever's going on with us. For instance, did you see the NAACP Image Award the other night? Did you see that degeneracy? Now, you know good and well Derek Johnson is being bought and paid for, because who else would put that degeneracy on TV like that? The Dwayne Wade crap. Everything is gay, gay, gay. The gay money is funding the NAACP. I would say if not 50, 60, 70%. They're going to do whatever the gay community says. Fine. But the NAACP is selling that stamp that says NAACP to the highest bidder. They will come out and call your opponent racist if you pay them enough money. Kim, what's wrong with that? It's called integrity. Back when we were Negroes, we had integrity. Those men and women who ran the NAACP back in the day, they did it at great cost to themselves and to their lives. These Negroes are just cashing in. That's called coon-dogging. Because at the end of the day, when they get done selling the blood plasma, the bone marrow out of the black community, we end up with what we have. Our kids are out of control. 13, 14-year-olds robbing cars, and even the young girls are into a life of crime. It's because the policies being promoted by these same groups, the NAACP, Southern Poverty Law Center, ACLU, the Black Caucus, they don't affirm life. Homosexuality does not affirm life. They can make you feel good by reciting homosexuality in the same breath with the civil rights movement and use it, yeah, but think it through. If God can't approve, if God's word can't put a stamp on it, why are we doing it? Because there's no future there. And this is where I fault the leadership. And I continue to point out the fact that, wait a minute, guys, this is not going to bear fruit. Not the fruit that we want to consume, pass on, or use for nourishment. Now, again, the last couple of weeks here in the city of Jackson in the Capital Improvement District, where they don't want more police protection or the police protection that they have from the CCID police, we had two young men killed, and they were killed by teenagers. Again, what is the difference between those policies, the opposition to House Bill 1020, for instance, and redlining? It still results in the same poverty, the coarse degradation, the threat to life and civil order that the redlining from the banks did back in the day. But see, we won't say that. We won't come up and say, hey, you know what? What's going on here? Because we won't do an after-action report to see whether or not our actions are good or bad. We let Derek tell us it's all good. They have all this gay crap being forced down our kids' throat. And so I'm saying to you folks, there's got to be a coalition of men and women, black, white, sky blue, green, who are willing to stand flat-footed and say, no, not here. Well, you're just trying to deny people their rights. Well, when you lose 133 Jacksonians who are put to death by the policies of the Democrat Party, liberalism, progressives, or whatever you want to call it, I think that's denying people their rights too, their right to life, liberty, and obviously the pursuit of happiness if they're dead. So what I'm telling you folks is that we can do this. There are enough of us, in fact, there are more of us, but see, we get shouted down by those other elements in the media, the Mississippi Free Press, the people who can afford to get their grants from the Kellogg Foundation to push a narrative of woe is me. Now, don't get me wrong. I applaud and approve of anybody's right to get into the public square and agitate their position. But we need to be clear about this. The position is being agitated and advocated by some of these groups. Folks, it's a death culture. And we need to say this and be unabashed, be unafraid. Because look at how much we have to gain. Now, we just, again, lost FedEx. They're suspending service of deliveries to zip code 39204. How much longer will it be to the other zip codes? Why should we have to live like this because the DA or whoever else has this liberal notion of crime, or we want to do the catch and release program? No, we want to be safe in our persons, safe in our home. We want to be able to get our paycheck and make it back to the house. We don't want Jackson to be a perennial gun and knife club where all that exists day in and day out is senseless murder, violence, random violence, and general mayhem at every turn. We just have to say, no, we don't want this. But they'll try to tell you, if you say that, you ain't really black. You are a coon. No, you are a coon dog because you're content to be locked up and caged in poverty, degradation, and death in your communities, in your home, when you could have the freedom of a coon if you would only comport yourself to being able to stand on yourself, do for yourself, and stand up like a man or a woman, square your shoulders, and quit going along. You don't need to be led by another man. You have the word of God to lead you. Be a man and stand on the word that you try to pronounce to everybody. You got the fish on your car, you got a cross on your chest, and you carry a Bible big as the one on your coffee table. Walk, be about that life you say you're about. So all we're calling on is for men to be men, or as I say on the radio, we need some minds. Not men, we need minds, real men. Because at the end of the day, what Derek is doing, what Benny's doing, what the Black Caucus is doing is unacceptable. And here's the deal. We're not even telling them that they got to give up their jobs. We're saying to do their job. And they can keep the big bucks that they're making, same way it is with the school system. We ain't saying Superintendent Green has to go. We're saying Superintendent Green has to get up off the dime, and let's work on those areas that didn't cost any money. Let's let teachers have sole control of who gets to sit in their classroom. Because if they can control that classroom and get that knucklehead out of there, that means we've got 24 other students who won't become juvenile delinquents because they'll learn how to read and write. Doesn't cost a dime. That's a policy decision. But see, we can't do it because of the relationship that these aforementioned groups have with one another within the Democrat Party. They're respecting each other's turf at the expense of our community. And I'm saying, nah, Hoss, we're breaking all this up at the door. There's a new sheriff in town. And it's really not a new sheriff. We're going back to the way we used to do things, back when we were Negroes, back when we had sense, back when we had courage, back when we had Christ. Folks, this is not rocket science. What we need are some men, real men, who the lust of office cannot buy, who the love of Christ can sustain. We're going to take a break. See you next week. Rib conservative, unabashedly so. Many of you listen to the program know that. And when I talk about conservatism, do for self is as conservative as it comes. I'm a capitalist. I believe in the free enterprise system. I believe that people need to get paid. They call me get paid Wade. I want everybody to eat. Everybody's got to eat. Now here's the deal. I invite your participation going forward. I want you to continue to watch Cwu-Tv and listen to the Kim Wade Show at WYAB 103.9 FM, WYAB.com, Monday through Fridays from 4 to 6. Continue to listen in, add your input, and see if we can't be the example for all of America to point to and say, they're doing it right down in Jackson, Mississippi. Message in there for a believer.